I never imagined that one trip to Germany would turn my entire world into a silent battlefield. I boarded that plane with a smile, hiding a secret no one knew, not even my boyfriend, Tobias. For months, I had been secretly learning German. Every word, every sentence, every expression, I mastered them quietly, preparing for the moment I would meet his teenage daughter, Leela. They believed I was clueless, an outsider who couldn't understand a single whisper. And that was exactly what I wanted. But from the moment I stepped off the plane, I sensed something darker behind Leela's polite smile. Her glances were sharp, her whispers calculated, her jokes twisted with hidden meaning. She plotted openly in German, confident I was too naive to understand. Tobias laughed along, unaware of the storm building around him. What they didn't know was that every word they spoke, every plan they whispered, every trap they set, I understood it all. And I was waiting, patiently, silently, for the perfect moment to turn their deception back on them, in flawless German. My name is Laura Bennett. I am 42 years old, and as I boarded the flight to Germany, my stomach buzzed with excitement and nerves. This trip was supposed to be simple, meet my boyfriend Tobias's teenage daughter, Leela, and show them I cared. But I carried a secret. I had been learning German in private for months, practicing every phrase, every pronunciation, all to surprise them. I smiled politely at fellow passengers, pretending normalcy, while mentally rehearsing how I would act naive, listening closely to every word they spoke around me. This wasn't just a vacation, it was a test of observation, patience, and strategy. One wrong move, and Leela might sense I was different. I settled into my seat, heart pounding, ready to navigate a world where words could betray intentions. The airport arrival was tense. Tobias greeted me warmly, but Leela hung back, arms crossed, eyes sharp and calculating. She smiled politely, but her guarded demeanor screamed caution, maybe even suspicion. I noticed every little thing, the way she tilted her head, the barely there smirk when Tobias said something playful, the subtle distance she maintained as if measuring me. Tobias chatted casually, oblivious to the silent signals between daughter and mother figure-to-be. I nodded and laughed at the appropriate moments, pretending to misunderstand a few simple German phrases, all while analyzing body language and tone. It became clear immediately that Leela wasn't just shy, she was evaluating me, judging me. And in that moment, I realized that to win her trust, I needed more than charm. I needed strategy, patience, and a careful eye on every conversation. I carefully continued pretending I didn't understand German, smiling and nodding as Leela and Tobias spoke around me. Every word, every subtle inflection I absorbed silently. They assumed I was oblivious, laughing at a joke they thought I didn't grasp, whispering plans under the table. My heart raced, part excitement, part dread. Acting naive wasn't easy. I had to maintain every micro-expression, every gesture, convincing them I was unaware, while internally noting their every move. I began picking up patterns, how Leela glanced at Tobias before speaking, the way she phrased sentences when she thought I couldn't comprehend. Each interaction became a small puzzle, and I felt the thrill of being in control without them realizing it. My secret knowledge gave me power. One misstep could reveal it, but one clever observation could reveal them. That evening, we sat at a small German bistro. The warm candlelight reflected off polished wooden tables as Tobias and Leela chatted about school, friends, and hobbies. I smiled, nodded, and occasionally responded with polite laughter, pretending not to catch certain German words while I listened closely. Leela made subtle jokes that hinted at her opinions about me, testing boundaries. Tobias remained unaware, enjoying the casual dinner. Each bite of food became secondary to observing the tension, the glances, the quiet calculations hidden behind smiles. I noticed how Leela shifted slightly when discussing her mother, the little ways she tried to gauge my reactions. Every word, every pause, every smirk was a clue. Dinner wasn't just a meal, it was an intricate stage for a delicate psychological game, and I was taking mental notes. After dinner, as we walked back to Tobias's apartment, I noticed Leela's sly glances, the subtle smirk as she whispered something in German under her breath, assuming I wouldn't understand. I paid attention to tone, word choice, and body language. There was an underlying current of strategy in her behavior, a small but deliberate attempt to assert control over the evening. Tobias remained unaware, chatting casually, while Leela's expressions revealed intentions she thought were hidden. My mind raced. What was she planning? How far did this go? I maintained my calm demeanor, pretending ignorance, while mentally piecing together the puzzle. Every glance and whispered comment became a fragment of the bigger picture, a test of my patience and ability to stay one step ahead without revealing my knowledge. I reminded myself to stay calm, letting them underestimate me. My German knowledge was my secret advantage, but it was useless if I revealed it too soon. I watched their interactions, noting how Leela subtly tried to influence Tobias's decisions, how she phrased her comments to gauge my reactions. I allowed small provocations to pass, silently recording each word in my mind, analyzing the implications. Acting naive gave me power. They thought they were in control, but every smile, nod, and "I don't understand" response was part of my strategy. My heart beat faster with anticipation, but I stayed composed. Knowledge was a weapon, patience the shield, and observation the sword. I knew that when the time came, I could turn the tables completely. Late that evening, I lingered in the living room, pretending to read a book. From the hallway, I overheard Leela speaking in German to her friend on speakerphone. The words made my blood run cold. She was plotting something against me, something calculated, cruel, and deliberate. My hands froze around the book, heart pounding. Tobias was in the kitchen unaware, and I had to keep my cool. I listened carefully, noting every word, every detail. The plan was audacious, something they thought I would never comprehend. But I did. And in that moment, a surge of clarity and resolve overtook fear. I knew I had to act strategically, preparing to protect myself, to reveal the truth at the perfect moment. The game had begun, and I was ready. Laura sat in the guest room, replaying everything she had overheard that evening. Each whispered phrase, each sly glance, each coded word formed a puzzle she needed to solve. Leela's plotting wasn't random. It had structure, timing, and intent. Laura mapped the sequence in her mind, imagining every possible way it could unfold, every consequence of inaction. Fear mixed with determination as she realized the depth of the deception. This wasn't a simple test of patience or charm. It was personal. Every word she remembered added another layer of clarity. She had underestimated Leela's cunning, but her secret knowledge of German gave her an advantage. Laura's pulse quickened as she realized she wasn't just eavesdropping, she was assembling the evidence she would use to protect herself and ultimately turn the plan against them. Laura observed Tobias interacting with his daughter, noting the casual obliviousness that made her stomach twist. He laughed at Leela's jokes, nodded at her plans, and didn't question her intentions. He seemed completely unaware of the subtle manipulation at play, unknowingly enabling the plot. Laura realized this was a dangerous dynamic. Leela had influence over him, and his blind trust left Laura vulnerable. The thought ignited a mix of anger and resolve inside her. She had to protect herself while keeping Tobias from realizing the threat too early, or risk escalating tension. Every gesture Tobias made, every approving smile, now had double meaning. Laura quietly reminded herself that her secret knowledge of German was her shield. With it, she could navigate the complex web of family dynamics and hidden intentions while remaining 2 steps ahead of both Leela and Tobias. Laura knew she had to act oblivious, continuing her charade of limited understanding, all while gathering information. Each word Leela spoke, each sly comment became a piece of intelligence she could use. Pretending to misunderstand required patience and focus. One accidental slip could blow her cover and expose her awareness. She measured every smile, every laugh, every nod. The stakes were higher than a normal family disagreement. This was manipulation aimed at undermining her presence and testing her influence over Tobias. Laura felt a thrill mixed with tension as she realized the game had fully begun. She had become both observer and player, quietly controlling the pace without them suspecting a thing. The next steps had to be calculated, strategic, and precise. Any misstep could tip the balance in Leela's favor. Laura started prompting Leela with casual questions, feigning curiosity while subtly encouraging her to speak more freely in German. Each time Leela revealed a new detail, Laura's understanding deepened. She noticed patterns in word choice, tone, and timing, confirming suspicions and uncovering further manipulations. Leela's overconfidence grew with every response, unaware that Laura comprehended everything. Laura stayed composed, allowing her silence and polite smiles to amplify Leela's sense of control, while she quietly collected crucial information. She tested boundaries by asking small questions and observing reactions, gauging just how far Leela intended to push her. Every response became a clue, a puzzle piece that would eventually expose the full scheme. Laura felt a mix of tension and excitement. The power of observation was intoxicating, and she realized she had the upper hand without them even suspecting it. During a casual conversation, Leela dropped a subtle hint about embarrassing or undermining Laura during the visit. The words were soft, calculated, almost playful, but the meaning was clear. Laura's stomach tightened, recognizing the danger behind the innocent tone. Tobias remained unaware, laughing at the seemingly harmless comment. Laura felt a surge of anger and determination. This was not a trivial slight. It was a deliberate act of psychological manipulation. Her mind raced with possible scenarios, ways the plan could unfold, and the potential consequences. She remained outwardly calm, smiling and nodding while mentally preparing for countermeasures. This first threat confirmed what she already suspected. She was facing a calculated adversary, and her only weapon was her knowledge, patience, and careful planning. One wrong move now could reveal her awareness and ruin her strategy. That night, Laura quietly set up her phone and notebook, documenting everything Leela said and did. She recorded conversations under the guise of checking messages, typed detailed notes, and memorized phrases and gestures that indicated manipulation. Every whisper, every smirk, every subtle comment was now cataloged as evidence. Laura knew that facts would be her strongest weapon, and memories alone wouldn't suffice. Her secret recordings ensured that when the time came, she could confront the situation with irrefutable proof. As she reviewed the day's interactions, she realized the extent of the plot. Leela's plans were elaborate, coordinated, and deliberately meant to test her patience and influence Tobias. Laura felt both the weight of the threat and the thrill of having a tangible advantage. With each note, she built a roadmap that would allow her to turn the game in her favor. Laura spent the evening strategizing her countermove, envisioning scenarios where her German fluency could flip the power dynamic completely. She rehearsed phrases, imagined confrontations, and planned subtle ways to provoke Leela into revealing her true intentions. Her approach was deliberate. Patience, observation, and precise timing. Laura understood that acting too early could backfire, so she focused on creating opportunities for maximum impact. She mapped the sequence of events she needed, ensuring Tobias would see the truth at the right moment. The thrill of anticipation mixed with a deep sense of control. She realized her secret skill had transformed a vulnerable situation into a position of power. By the end of the night, Laura was ready, calm, confident, and poised to reveal the hidden plan while remaining untouchable herself. Laura continued acting completely clueless, smiling politely at every conversation, nodding as though she didn't understand the subtle German phrases Leela and Tobias exchanged. Each joke, each whispered comment became a treasure trove of information she silently cataloged in her mind. Her outwardly naive behavior only encouraged Leela to speak more freely, revealing intentions and testing boundaries. Laura's heart raced as she realized the power of pretending ignorance. Her calm demeanor contrasted with the scheming around her. Tobias remained unaware, laughing along, completely missing the tension under the surface. Laura knew this was a delicate game. One slip could expose her understanding, but one well-timed observation could give her the advantage. Every micro-expression, every pause, every inflection was a piece of the puzzle, and Laura was determined to use them all to turn the situation in her favor. Laura carefully observed patterns in Leela's behavior, noticing how she shifted subtly depending on Tobias's attention, how her tone changed when speaking to friends, and how she tried to manipulate the narrative around Laura. She noted every glance, every pause, every sly smile, understanding that Leela's cunning extended far beyond what Tobias perceived. By watching closely, Laura began predicting potential traps and manipulations, imagining how Leela might attempt to embarrass or control her. Each observation sharpened Laura's mental map of the household dynamics, revealing weaknesses and overconfidence in Leela's strategy. Tobias's blind trust made it easier for Laura to see the truth. The thrill of having insight while remaining undetected gave Laura both confidence and a quiet sense of satisfaction. She knew that patience and careful observation would allow her to orchestrate the perfect response when the moment came. Laura decided to subtly test Tobias without revealing her knowledge. In carefully chosen moments, she spoke to him in fluent German, using phrases that only someone who understood the language could pick up, observing whether he noticed her comprehension. Tobias smiled, responding casually, entirely unaware that she understood more than he realized. Each response he gave confirmed her strategy. She could operate in secret while he remained oblivious. She carefully gauged his reactions to small hints, ensuring he remained confident in his assumptions while she quietly gathered insight into his awareness of Leela's schemes. The test reinforced Laura's control. She was not just observing, she was influencing the dynamics without either of them realizing. This delicate balance between concealment and revelation became a game of psychological strategy, one that required focus, patience, and impeccable timing. Late one evening, Laura overheard Leela speaking in German with a friend on speakerphone, detailing exactly how she planned to undermine and humiliate Laura during the visit. They assumed Laura couldn't understand a word, and their overconfidence became her advantage. Every sentence revealed intention, timing, and tactics, painting a clear picture of their scheme. Laura's heart raced as she cataloged each detail silently, understanding the depth of Leela's manipulation. Tobias was in another room, oblivious, and Laura had to maintain her calm composure to avoid raising suspicion. This hidden conversation confirmed her worst fears, but also empowered her. Now she had complete knowledge of their plan. The information was priceless, a roadmap for turning the situation entirely in her favor. Quietly, she smiled to herself, knowing that the moment of revelation was approaching, and when it came, the tables would turn completely. Laura began dropping subtle hints in German during casual conversations, carefully observing Leela's reactions without revealing full comprehension. A raised eyebrow, a slight pause, or a carefully phrased sentence forced Leela to overthink and slip up without realizing she had been caught. Tobias still remained unaware, laughing or engaging in conversation, completely oblivious to the psychological tension building in his home. Laura's calm demeanor and strategic provocations made her appear charmingly naive while testing the boundaries of Leela's manipulation. Every reaction she elicited became additional evidence and insight. By the end of the day, Laura felt she had solidified her position. She could control the flow of information, manipulate the environment subtly, and prepare for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. The psychological game had shifted. The predator was about to become prey. Laura maintained a carefully calculated silence in critical moments, letting conversations unfold without interruption. By listening attentively and observing without speaking, she allowed Leela's overconfidence to grow. Every whispered comment, every scheming glance, every manipulative remark became part of a growing record of evidence. Tobias's obliviousness amplified Laura's advantage. She could witness the full extent of the plot while remaining undetected. Strategic silence allowed tension to escalate naturally, forcing Leela to reveal her intentions and overplay her hand. Laura's mind was armed with potential counter-strategies, balancing patience with timing. She knew that the right words at the right moment would not only expose the scheme, but also ensure she retained control over the household dynamic. By letting others reveal themselves, Laura positioned herself perfectly for the decisive confrontation. After days of observation, Laura realized she now had complete knowledge of the plot against her and could act at the perfect moment. Leela's overconfidence, Tobias's ignorance, and the evidence she had quietly collected gave her unparalleled power in the situation. Every whisper, every plan, every subtle manipulation was now in Laura's mental arsenal. She felt a surge of confidence. The predator had become the strategist. With her secret fluency in German and a careful plan, she could expose the truth with precision, protecting herself while forcing Leela and Tobias to confront the reality they had tried to hide. Laura took a deep breath, steadying herself, aware that the culmination of her patience and intelligence was approaching. The game of deception was nearing its climax, and victory was within her grasp. Laura spent the morning carefully planning her approach, deciding that the dinner party the next evening would be the perfect stage to expose Leela's plot. She knew timing was everything. Revealed too early, and they might adjust. Wait too long, and the damage could be done. She rehearsed how to stay calm, how to use her German fluency strategically, and how to maintain an innocent facade. Until the moment of impact, every detail mattered. The seating arrangement, the flow of conversation, even the placement of the wine glasses. Laura visualized the sequence, imagining Leela's reactions and Tobias's shock when the truth surfaced. By the end of the afternoon, she felt a controlled excitement, her nerves replaced with focus. The stage was set, and the game she had been playing silently for days was about to reach its crescendo. Laura knew she couldn't entirely control the environment alone, so she discreetly enlisted the help of Tobias's close friend, Miriam, who would be present at dinner. She carefully explained, in private, that she had overheard Leela's scheme and wanted subtle support without revealing the full story. Miriam agreed, understanding the importance of timing and discretion. With this quiet ally in place, Laura felt more confident. She wasn't alone, and she had someone to back her if Leela's manipulations became aggressive. The ally's presence also offered a psychological advantage, allowing Laura to guide the conversation indirectly, ensuring that Leela's overconfidence could be tested. Every detail was carefully orchestrated, from positioning at the table to eye contact cues. Laura now had the tools to control not only the dialogue, but also the energy in the room, setting up the perfect reveal. The next evening, Leela arrived full of self-assuredness, unaware that Laura had understood every single word she had whispered, plotted, and rehearsed. She spoke freely in German, making jokes and sly comments, thinking Laura was completely oblivious. Every confident glance and calculated smirk now worked against her, giving Laura insight into the depth of her plotting. Tobias remained oblivious, laughing at her playful comments and praising her cleverness. Laura felt a surge of satisfaction as she quietly cataloged each remark, each gesture, and each subtle attempt to manipulate the evening. Leela's overconfidence, combined with Tobias's ignorance, made her predictable. Laura's patience and observation had positioned her perfectly. She could now plan the exact moment and wording to confront the scheme, ensuring that every lie and every intention would be exposed with maximum impact. As the dinner progressed, Laura maintained her calm demeanor, smiling politely and nodding at Leela's comments while mentally noting each subtle manipulation. The tension in the room was palpable, though Tobias remained oblivious. Leela grew slightly uneasy under Laura's steady gaze, sensing without knowing that something was off. Laura's quiet presence created a contrast that highlighted Leela's scheming, forcing her to overcompensate and speak more freely than intended. Each toast, each casual remark, each shared anecdote became a test of patience and timing. Laura felt a thrilling sense of control. She wasn't merely defending herself, she was orchestrating the reveal. The subtle tension built gradually, like a coiled spring, setting the stage for the precise moment when Leela's intentions would be laid bare for everyone to see. Laura subtly manipulated events to provoke Leela into revealing more than she intended. She asked gentle questions in German, feigning curiosity, and allowed small pauses to create pressure. Leela, thinking Laura didn't understand, elaborated freely, unknowingly exposing details of her manipulative plan. Every response, every inflection, every micro-expression became additional evidence. Tobias laughed at the exchanges, still oblivious, while Laura internally noted the full extent of the scheme. Her patience was tested, but she remained composed, aware that reacting too soon could ruin the opportunity for maximum impact. Each word revealed more about Leela's intentions and character, strengthening Laura's ability to confront the situation confidently. By staying calm and observing closely, Laura ensured that the coming revelation would leave no room for denial or excuse, turning the subtle manipulation against its creator. Finally, Laura heard the exact words that confirmed her worst suspicions. Lila's plan to humiliate and control her in front of Tobias. The conversation, spoken casually in German, outlined every detail, the timing, the approach, the intended embarrassment. Laura's stomach tightened, but her mind sharpened. She stayed poised, her outward expression calm and friendly, while internally preparing the perfect response. Tobias remained oblivious, completely trusting Lila's words. Laura realized she now had irrefutable knowledge, and with careful planning, she could expose the scheme with precision. Every detail she had noted over the past days, the whispers, the gestures, the overconfidence, came together to give her complete control over the situation. The critical moment had arrived, and she knew exactly how she would act. Laura took a quiet breath, mentally rehearsing the words she would use in German to reveal Lila's plan without hesitation. She visualized the timing, the tone, and the reactions she wanted. Tobias's shock, Lila's panic, and the undeniable exposure of every manipulative move. Her preparation wasn't just about speaking the language, it was about strategy, psychology, and impact. She rehearsed subtle pauses, gestures, and eye contact, ensuring the revelation would leave no room for excuses or denial. Every recorded detail, every observation, and every careful note would culminate in this moment. Laura felt a mixture of adrenaline and calm control. When the time came, the power of her secret knowledge and meticulous planning would turn the tables completely, exposing deception and asserting her rightful place as the one in control. If you want to see how everything changed after this moment, make sure to hit subscribe, because what happened next turned our entire world upside down. Laura took a deep breath and spoke clearly in German, her voice calm but firm, exposing every detail of Leela's plan to Tobias and everyone present. She recounted the whispers, the manipulative jokes, and the scheming she had overheard, each phrase carefully articulated to leave no doubt. Leela's smug smile faltered as she realized Laura understood everything. Tobias froze mid-sentence, his confusion turning into shock as he listened to Laura describe events he had been oblivious to. The air in the room thickened with tension, every eye fixed on the unfolding drama. Laura's careful preparation, patient observation, and secret knowledge allowed her to command the room without raising her voice. In that moment, she wasn't just defending herself, she was asserting control, turning the deception back on its creator, and ensuring that the truth could no longer be denied. The room fell completely silent. Tobias stared at Laura, disbelief and awe mingling in his expression. Leela's confident, teasing demeanor evaporated instantly. Her lips trembled, and her eyes widened as panic slowly replaced arrogance. Every whispered plot, every attempt to manipulate Laura now lay exposed for all to see. Tobias's jaw tightened as he struggled to process the betrayal he had unknowingly enabled. Leela fumbled for words, but nothing she said could undo the damning evidence Laura had so calmly and clearly revealed. Even the friend Laura had quietly enlisted watched with stunned admiration. The silence was heavy, like a held breath, a pause before the reckoning. Laura felt a surge of quiet satisfaction, knowing that her patience, observation, and strategic restraint had paid off, and the full weight of Leela's overconfidence had finally collapsed around her. Laura retrieved her phone and showed the recordings, messages, and notes she had meticulously collected over the past days. Each conversation, each whisper, each subtle manipulation was documented with timestamps and context, leaving no room for denial. The courtroom-style setup of the living room amplified the impact. Tobias could see and hear everything for himself. Leela tried to protest, but her own voice in the recordings betrayed her intentions, every word highlighting her scheme. Laura's calm and composed presentation contrasted with Leela's faltering confidence, emphasizing the stark difference between preparation and reckless plotting. The weight of evidence made it impossible to ignore the truth. Every smirk, whisper, and manipulative attempt now worked against the schemer. Laura's strategy, intelligence, and secret skill were undeniable, forcing Tobias to confront the full extent of the deception he had been blind to. Until now. Tobias's face shifted from shock to understanding, then to regret. He reached out to Laura, voice heavy with emotion, apologizing for not noticing sooner, for trusting Lila's misleading behavior, and for doubting her composure. His admiration for Laura's intelligence, patience, and cleverness was evident in every glance and gesture. Lila shrank back, realizing that Tobias's loyalty had shifted entirely toward Laura. The room was charged with a mix of relief and tension as Tobias slowly acknowledged the truth, admitting that he had underestimated both Laura and the meticulous planning she had executed in silence. Laura remained calm, accepting his apology with quiet grace, allowing the recognition to settle without gloating. In this moment, Tobias not only saw Laura's skill, but also her integrity, cementing a newfound respect that transformed the dynamics of their relationship entirely. Lila's attempts to argue or deflect fell flat. Every word she had spoken, every whispered plan, and every joke she had thought clever now worked against her. Tobias and the quiet ally observed as her narrative crumbled, exposing the depth of her manipulation and overconfidence. Laura's composed demeanor contrasted sharply with Lila's floundering, amplifying the defeat. Even when Lila tried to justify herself, the evidence was undeniable. Her intentions, motives, and scheming were laid bare. The power dynamic shifted completely. Leela's arrogance was replaced by embarrassment, panic, and realization that she had underestimated the person she sought to undermine. Laura's patience, intelligence, and careful observation had turned deception into victory. The defeat was public yet subtle, felt in the tension, the looks exchanged, and the undeniable exposure of truth, leaving Leela powerless to manipulate further. Laura's calm, strategic, and intelligent handling of the situation earned Tobias's full respect and admiration. He openly acknowledged her strength, cleverness, and composure, recognizing the courage it took to navigate deception while maintaining control. Even the quiet ally who had witnessed the events gave a nod of approval, impressed by Laura's restraint and precision. Laura felt a surge of empowerment. She hadn't just survived a manipulative scheme, she had turned it into a display of her intelligence and authority. Every whispered plot and calculated manipulation was now fully exposed, and the respect she earned was absolute. This wasn't just about winning, it was about establishing her rightful place, asserting her presence, and proving that patience, observation, and strategy could overcome even the most cunning of adversaries. Laura had emerged victorious. Transformed deception into triumph. The visit ended with Laura standing tall, triumphant, and unshaken, having navigated a web of deception, manipulation, and betrayal. Tobias now fully understood the depth of her patience, intelligence, and skill, while Leela was left to reflect on her overconfidence and failed schemes. Laura's secret skill in German, her careful observation, and her strategic patience had ensured she controlled the outcome without raising her voice. The tension melted into quiet satisfaction. She had protected herself, exposed the truth, and asserted her authority. Walking out of the apartment, she felt the weight lift, replaced with pride and relief. This experience not only preserved her dignity, but also strengthened her relationship with Tobias, proving that cunning and patience, combined with knowledge and intelligence, could overcome manipulation and establish lasting respect and empowerment.